Welcome back everyone. Everybody, it is the last and final video here of this building strength season, and today's episode we are on episode 9, and as we all know we are talking about MesoPhase. Hey wait! Yeah! We're going to have 4 questions that we're going to talk about in this video, and I'm going to go across them all. And the first question is, what is it? What is MesoPhase? Great question you asked. You're a fantastic audience. Great question. So, what is the MesoPhase? Bodybuilding. And it is the correct way on how you're meant to do it. So, when everyone hears bodybuilding training, we all just assume that you do 3 sets of 10, or maybe 3 tails, 3 eights, whatever, on a few of your main compounds, or maybe on a few of your accessories, and that's bodybuilding. And you mean, yes, it is bodybuilding. With a MesoPhase you will work with that volume, but why are you working with that volume? Like, why? Are you choosing the right weights? For one, how do you know that the weight that you're working at, if it's too heavy or too light? So when choosing, this is when it really separates from doing bodybuilding correctly, or to they're just doing 3 sets of 10 on a random weight where you just don't really know. Okay, so let's choose the 3 sets of 10 on bench press. Okay, and the reason why you are doing a MesoPhase is because maybe you just want to get bigger, or you're taking time away from peak. So you've done your peak performance, you've done your off season, and now you're into your MesoPhase of training. So making those smaller muscles basically bigger. But I will get onto that. So we've chosen bench press because we want to get a bigger chest, bigger arms, bigger shoulders. Sweet. Now, how do we know what the weight we are choosing is correct? So when it comes down to the MesoPhase, you want to be playing with 65 to 70%. Okay, that's the weight you want to be training at. So let's say your 1 rep max on a bench press is 100 kilo. Okay, so you are going to be working at 65 kilos. Okay, so 65 kilo. Now, when choosing your reps and sets, this is where it becomes really important. Now, you need to make sure, okay, now listen up, you need to make sure you have 2 left in the tank after each of those sets. So let's say you're doing 4 sets of 8, okay, on 65 kilograms, you need to make sure you have 2 reps left, okay. Now, let's say you're working for 4 weeks at that weight, okay, so you're doing 65 kilo on bench press for 4 weeks for 4 sets of 8, okay. Now, after those 4 weeks, after each set and last set, that RPE of having 2 reps left in the tank of RP8 should get less. Okay, by the end of that cycle, it should now be a good RP6. Now you go up in weight. Okay, now that 65 kilo is no longer a struggle after each set. Now you're like, cool, after each set I've easily got 4 or 3 reps in the tank. We've excelled now. Your muscle has adapted and got thicker and bigger. Now, for your next bit, where do we go up? You only want to be making small increments of a jump. So 2.5 kilo or 5 kilo. 5 kilo at its max. Okay, so now we are doing 65, okay, and now we've gone to 67 kilo, okay, but you still stay with the same rep range, okay, you're still doing 4 sets of 8, and you're still going to do that for 4 weeks, for example. So then at the end of the 4 weeks, 67 is really easy now, and now you go to 70 kilo. So 4, 8, 12, so in 3 months, obviously we've only gone up in 5 kilo, okay, but we've got a lot stronger, okay. So that's what MesoPhase is. That's how we actually train bodybuilding correctly. So to quickly summarize that up, is that you choose a weight between 60 to 70% of your 1 rep max. Okay, you choose a volume that you can work at, that you enjoy, because you're going to be doing this volume for a while. Okay, and you need to make sure that your cycles, okay, so obviously that is for each week, you can go up in weight by 2.5 and 5 kilo max. Okay, 5 kilo max. And once you hit the end of that cycle, you go up in weight by 2.5 or 5 kilo. That is what MesoPhase is. So now we're on the second question. When is it? When is it MesoPhase? But basically you want to do it after your peak. Okay? So having an understanding of training and like how it all gets put out is that once you do a peak, obviously now you've got incredibly stronger now, and then you work your way around, you have new percentages to base off your MesoPhase now, and it is a constant cycle going round and round and round. So let's say that in your peak phase you were able to say bench press 200 kilo, okay, so you got up to a 200 kilo bench. That means when you did your previous MesoPhase, the numbers that you were basing off was your previous peak. So looking at it, so you would have your, let's say you're getting ready for competition, so you're doing your peak, then you have your contest prep or just getting strong, doesn't necessarily have to be for a contest, and then you go into a deload, and then you have an off season, and then you do your prep season, and then maybe you could do your MesoPhase, and then you go back into peak. So like I was just saying about the 60 and the 70%, now your prep and meso, this is very, very, very important. So if you're going to take time off away from training, so say if you're like an A-star athlete, okay, and you're like, okay, when I next compete, this can be powerlifting, strongman, I'm gonna log lift 230, or I'm gonna for my weight class I'm gonna do a 300 kilo squat, a part of my competition, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that while having a peak in the middle of my year, so I need 2 years of basically prep phase. And this is where you work at you start 40-50% and you slowly increase it, getting that volume, boom, 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 boom. So basically you do your peak phase from 40% up to your new 1RM, which you would obviously timeline out to your contest in 2 years, for example. So that is obviously a strategy you can take. So with the MesoPhase and the prep, so putting the prep aside, is that you do your peak, and you go into your off season, and you do a little bit of pre-season, like getting back into the rhythm of it, and then you're going to your meso, where you could spend like 18-20 weeks obviously getting all those muscles a lot stronger, because now what you would, for example, like I was saying with the 4 sets of 8, you were benching this number based off your previous peak, and now you have a new number to bench off for your new meso. So it is getting the endurance up for your peak if you're a strength athlete. So that's when is it? Question 3. How long is MesoPhase? If you're a powerlifter, if you're a strongman, if you're a crossfitter, if you're a bodybuilder, rugby player, any competitive sport, I mean, not competitive, oh god, what's the word? It's completely slipped my mind. Sports where they bang bodies against each other. So, the very aggressive sport. It really depends. It's a great question. It does really depend on how long it can be. If you want to take time out of training, so this will be more leaning towards a bodybuilder, for example, is that a MesoPhase is the majority of their training. So while for a strength athlete, a prep phase would be the majority of their training, they do meso for a bit, and then they do peak, and then they restart again. So it really depends down to what sport you're in. So if you're a bodybuilder, it could be 6 months long, for example, just slowly going up the ladder with loads of deloads in between, having little mini off seasons in those 6 to 8 months of training. It really depends what sport you're in. So if you're a bodybuilder, like I just said, it's going to be the majority of your training. If you're a powerlifter, it is only going to be probably a quarter of the year or a third of the year where you do meso, for example. If you're a strongman, it could be incorporated with your peak. It could be incorporated due to the intensity that they train at. So it could be a combination of having 2 phases together, and yes, you can do that. So it really depends on what sport you're in. Okay, we are on the last and final question of MesoPhase. Why is it? Honestly, these questions that you pulled out are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Think as a bodybuilder with me right now. So, when a bodybuilder goes up on stage or getting ready, he will look at his physique and he'll be like, okay, I need my delts bigger. I need my chest to be longer and wider. I need my lats to be more wing-like. I need my quads to be more curved. As you can tell, I'm not a bodybuilder. They look at it on that aspect. So as a strength athlete, you would look, okay, so for a 1 rep max, for example, I really struggle. Really struggle. And of course, you are going to struggle, but the discipline that behind that 1 rep max squat, bench, deadlift, clean and jerk and snatch, if you don't have the endurance side behind it, backing it, this up here will always look terrible. Always will. So that is why you have a mesophase. So it builds up that hypertrophy endurance and it carries over to your peak. So if you, for example, if you hold your discipline really well, where in your mesophase, in your squat, your bench, your deadlift, your snatch and your clean and jerk, your peak phase will go even better. If you're training sloppy during your meso, your peak will look awful. So this is why you would have a mesophase. So like I was saying before, so you've already done a peak on the other side of the year. Now you have new numbers to base your mesophase off for your percentages. And you've never done these before. So now you are working in a harder intensity off your new percentages, and you make the discipline absolutely bang on as best you can. And then when you go to peak, you've got that discipline endurance there and it carries over. Okay, this is why you have a mesophase. Talking on a more of a power output is, again, every time you have a peak and then you go into a new meso, your muscles need to adapt because you've got these new percentages to base off. So you want to get stronger for your next peak, and it's constantly like this, constant circle, boom, 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 all the time. That's why training meso, specifically during your year of training, is so important. So important and beneficial to have it. So yeah, that is meso, everybody. This is the end of mesophase. So quickly, as a big summary going over it, that mesophase isn't just doing 3 sets to 10 on a weight. It is about still doing that progressional overload, getting those muscles a lot stronger and bigger on the new percentages that you now have from your previous peak. It is so important to do, so important. So if you're wanting to train bodybuilding, this is how you do it. Okay, it is not just going and doing 3 sets of 10 and just casually jumping up the weight. Okay, you have to know your percentages, you have to know the numbers you're working at. How on earth are you meant to climb that mountain and achieve? Now, that is it. That is the end of the video. That is episode 9 done, and that is the end of this series. We've had peak performance, we've had understanding percentages on how you need to know what you're doing. We've had designing your own block, fatigue management, and last of all, mesophase. Now, I am going to be delivering more videos like this in different series. It's not going to be specifically just about this, but this part is done. Alright, it is all done. Now, I hope I brought a little bit of insight and making people understand actually how to train properly. So, everyone, it is 2021 and we are still in a COVID situation, but hopefully it will be done soon and we can return back to the gym and apply this knowledge we have here into our training and make strength gains and make physique gains that we can as much as possible. Anyway, like I say at the end of every single video, have a great day and have a great week, have a great weekend, and most of all, lead by example.